Armando May is my guest again this week. We are reviewing a new book that he has just released. But if you don't know who he is a new rock star. He's part of the Cafrey research project having to do with SAR technology. We've had him on just recently with his team members and Trevor Grassi talking about this new scan that was done recently on the Cafrey pyramid. But today, I'm happy to say that, and I've been looking forward to this book. A new book has been released called 36,400 BCE, The Secrets of the Gods. And this was actually written a few years ago, and he has recently had it translated into English. And this is one book for your library. You have to get it because not only does it discuss Armando's work, his interest in the Giza Plateau, but also gives us a sense of why he chose to work with the team members of the Cafrey research project. So, Armando, welcome back to Earth Ancients. Great to see you.
Thank you, Cliff, for the invitation. Thank you. It's a great pleasure to see you again.
You wrote this book a few years ago, but in the very beginning of the book, you bring up a topic that I am concerned about, which is the issues regarding the Egyptological community, but not just worldwide, but specifically in Egypt itself, the Egypt government and their problems, their fear of exploration. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it seems to be an issue. And I think we can also get into the Islamic fundamentalism, which is kind of pervasive now, and a problem that I see every time I go to Egypt, which is, you can't meditate, you can't tone, you can't consider any other form of worship if it's not Islamic when you're there in the different monument area. But talk about this discovery and this unfortunate turn of events that the country of Egypt is facing.
Well, as you know, I'm in the field of Egyptology since the mid of 90s. And along all this time, I try to focus particularly the mystery of the Giza Plateau. And I achieved some results that seems to be a starting point in the effort to understand the secrets of the ancient past. Of course, with the academic Egyptology and particularly with the Orthodox Egyptology, it's very hard to enter in a kind of agreement on these topics because there is a great difference of points of view on this plateau. But I have to say that as I said you before starting our interview, I'm trying to move to Egypt. And one of the first steps, of course, is to try to enter in contact with the Egyptian authorities, because I believe that the cooperation of several projects of research are the base to move forward in the effort to shed a light on the mysteries of the past. That is why I believe that I appreciate very much the work that the Egyptian authorities made until now on the Giza Plateau and all over Egypt, and particularly the job and work that made Dr. Zakiawas in all this time. At the same time, I have to say that with Zakiawas, we have a different point of interpretation of the functions of the pyramids, for example, because I don't think that the pyramids were tombs. But this is not so much hard, and to get in touch with them in the effort to find an agreement and find a way for a cooperation. Also, because with the project, the Khafre research project, until now we have just finished to map the entire Giza Plateau, and it's time to achieve the second step. It means to move to Giza and try to start the excavation on the Giza Plateau with the aim to explore the underground of Giza. So great appreciation for the Egyptian authorities, but it's time to start to enter in the mind of a possible cooperation between projects of research.
How do you think that's going to work out since Zahi has basically said that the SAR research is, not valid at all. How can you get him to cooperate and take to the next level, which is validating these scans?
Yes, we have submitted the second scientific article in a few days ago in a remote sensing journal, and it will be published in, I believe, in the next weeks, according to the publisher times schedule. And this article is focused very precisely on the technology that we used. That is the same that the team used for the scan of the Cheops pyramid. But we improved the technology, just move faster in the analysis of the tomographies that we obtain through the satellite. And at the same time, I have also to underline that cooperation with Professor Howard Zeppeker is started of the Stanford University because he's trying to duplicate the technology. And this is very important for us because it's clear that if the Professor Zeppeker, that is one of the most important experts of radar technology, if Zeppeker is starting to explore the world of the Bernoulli protocol that path to scan the underground of Giza, it means that the technology works very well.
Excellent. I want to get into this book. In the very beginning, you discuss the concept of Zep Tepi, which is the first time. And I've known about
Yeah.
it. Graham Hancock talks about it. Robert Bauval, most of the alternative science discusses it. It isn't really a concept that Egyptology grasps too much. In fact, Zahi Hawass was on Joe Rogan, and when Joe Rogan mentioned it to him, he was like, "What are you talking? I've never heard of that concept before." I couldn't believe he said that. But tell us about why Zep Tepi is such an important concept.
Yes, Zaki was during the interview with Joe Rogan, maybe didn't understand very well the question that Joe Rogan asked him because, as you know, the Zep tape is mentioned in the text of the pyramids, for example, also in the text of the coffins. So, and the concept of Zep tape is also inscribed in the Book of Death, that is one of the most important texts
Right.
of ancient. The Zep Tepi, of course, is the time when the gods ruled over Egypt and they walked among humans, give them the first knowledge. But if we take a look at the text, at the Book of Death, we can appreciate some episode that seems to refer to a record of an ancient story and not a myth. That is why I decided to improve the lectures of the Book of Death, because among its lines, I found clues of an ancient story that suggests that something happened in a very distant time. And the Zep Tepi, in my opinion, was the beginning of a new time during which the demigods start to rule over Egypt with Horus. So it's the end of the Osiris reign at the beginning of Horus reign. Also because in a chapter is clearly specified this concept when the text says that Osiris in the night of the great battle gave his powers to his son Horus. So it means that in that moment is clearly specified that the Septepi is the beginning of the demigods ruled over Egypt.
Would you say that when they writing is discussing demigods, that's referring to an advanced culture of scientific advanced people?
I believe that I refers to a preceding civilization that lived on Earth a very distant time, before the Great Flood, for sure. There was an ancient and unknown civilization, I believe a human civilization, not a connection with aliens, for example. I believe it was a human civilization also because we know very few concepts about the evolution of humankind since the ancient time. And I believe that anthropologists must improve their research on the field in the effort to put together all the clues and have a clear idea of the evolution of humankind. We are still blocked on the Darwin theory that I believe is not totally precise about the human evolution.
John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, and a number of early authors refer to Zep Tepi as an actual period. Are you suggesting in your book 36,400 BCE as a starting date of an Ice Age culture? Is that kind of the beginning of Zep Tepi? Talk about that for us. Give us an idea.
Yes, it's a start date because the Zep Tepi is straightly connected to another event that is inscribed in the book of that. That is the Battle of Heliopolis between Horus and Set, the followers of Horus and Set. To conquer the pillars of Horus, we don't know what is the pillar of Horus because it's not inscribed, it's specified in the text. But I believe that Heliopolis, that is straightly connected with the Giza Plateau, it's not far away from the Giza Plateau. I believe it in that time was a unique place, and maybe the battle was to conquer the Giza Plateau, that in my opinion, and according to what we have discovered underneath the Giza Plateau, it was a kind of power plant complex. And this is why I believe that the battle, the struggle between the gods originated. And the battle was won by Horus, and from that day started a new world order with the demigods, with Horus and Shem's war until the first dynasty with Pharaoh Nemes.
Are you suggesting that the pyramids were built in 36,000 BC, 400 BC? The pyramids?
I think that the pyramids were aligned with the celestial birth exactly in 36,400 before Christ, because there are lots of clues suggesting that the vernal equinox of 36,400 is the date when the celestial birth was aligned with the monument on the Giza Plateau, because of the connection between the pyramids and the Orion belts, because of the connection with the ridge where actually is the mastaba Kent-Kawes with the star Sirius. There is a precise connection that I described in my book. Also is very similar, for example, the angular separation with the east of the star Sirius with the east and the tomb of Kent-Kawes with the east. Exactly the same angular separation. That is a clear clues of a possible connection between the monuments and the star. What is interesting is also the position of the Lion constellation and the connection of Regulus, that is the largest star of the constellation, with two planets, Mercury and Jupiter, exactly how the Sphinx is connected with the two temples beneath the Sphinx.
Right.
And also it's interesting the connection between the constellation of Aquarius that is in opposition with the Lion constellation that is exactly on the NC2 tomb of the birds. And also this connection between the Aquarius constellation and the tomb of the birds is very interesting because according to also the exploration of Andrew Collins, for example, years ago of the tomb of the birds, he discovered that the tomb of the tunnels underground, in the underground of the tomb, are massive. There were massive clues of water erosion and also traces of sodium. It means that the tomb of the birds was the basin of the Giza Plateau that inside it flowed salt water coming from somewhere, maybe from the Mediterranean Sea through the channel that was discovered by the German geologist Max Ludwig Blankenhorn in 1923,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe from the Fayum region, according to a study of two geologists of the Chicago University, Stanford and Darko. And in 1929, the University of Chicago published this exploration that refers to artificial channels that from Fayum goes towards Giza. Maybe in these channels flowed salt water. So there is a clear connection between the constellation of Aquarius, the tomb and C2 or tomb of the birds, and the salt water coming from the Mediterranean Sea and from the Fayum region.
You're very careful not to mention Atlantis in your book, but there's a lot of researchers that believe that Edgar Cayce has his finger on potential dates. And the thinking is that the high point of Atlantis was like 50,000 BC, and that the place that we consider the height of Egypt, the Giza Plateau, and many of the monuments, was a satellite of Atlantis, one of their cities. Do you have any sense of that? I know you don't like to talk directly because when you speak of Atlantis, that's a myth, of course, and then we're talking about Plato, but these are extremely sophisticated monuments. We have no idea how they were made. There's no record, there's no blueprints,
Yeah.
and it's easy for the Egyptologists to consider them dynastic monuments. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but there's no proof that they could even create it during the dynastic period.
Yes, first of all, you refers to the date 50,000 years ago. This data that you refers to is very important because the date of the channel, the river, the Ur-Nil that Max Ludwig Blankenhorn discovered, and I refers to the channel before in the preceding answer, is dated exactly to 50,000 years ago. So it means that that date is crucial date during which, in my opinion, if we hypothesize just for a moment that Atlantis really existed, it's possible that that date is very important because it's the date when the construction of the entire building of Giza, so the underground and the surface, was started to be built. So it's possible that this is a very important clues that must be better studied in the hope to find many other texts that could help us to understand what happened in that period.
In 2018, you developed a scientific model for the formation of the Great Pyramids. You call it number 137. Tell us about that. I'm interested in that 137.
137. 137. Before to talk about this number, I want to explain why I joined I achieved this results. Because what is important to underline is that when I understood that the Egyptology was blocked on ancient hypotheses, theories that doesn't match with the reality of the Giza Plateau, I understood that to achieve the goal is important to analyze the Giza Plateau from a different point of view. So I started from the point that if the Giza Plateau was built by an advanced civilization that lived before us on this planet, maybe they convey a message through the universal language, the tool of the universal language, that in my opinion is the number, because the number one is today and the number one is the future. So I can't wrong about the number. So I applied a different arithmetical and mathematical model in the analysis of the monuments, particularly of the pyramids. And when I applied the factorization model to the sites of the pyramids, I discovered that the sites of the Great Pyramid, for example, originated from the prime number 7 and 11, 7 for the height and 11 for the base. I applied the same model of the factorization to the Mycerinus Menkaure pyramids, and I obtained as a result the number 5 for the height and the number 11 for the base.
Mm-hmm.
When I applied the same model to the Cafrey pyramid, I obtained 137 from the height and 137 from the base. It means that it was a precise code that the lost civilization of the pyramid want to convey to the future generation, to the future civilization. And the number 137 is very important code for physics because From this number originated the three main laws of physics: electromagnetism, relativity, and quantum physics. It is also connected to the Planck constant. It is the constant fine structure in quantum physics. So this number is very, very important to understand, in my opinion, what really was the function of the entire power plant of Giza, because it works according to this number that actually is still unknown for the physicists. And I believe that it's time to improve the study on this number, but according to me, not to analyzing the value, the complex value of the number, but studying the number under 37 as a kind of model, putting together in succession the three laws of physics: electromagnetism, quantum physics, and relativity. And maybe we can achieve the final result to understand the function of the pyramids.
Yeah, when you mentioned electromagnetic physics, I think of Chris Dunn's book on the Giza power plant and his belief that the great Khufu pyramid was some form of generator, generating energy. And so you basically are validating his work, which I find is just amazing. How does that work with Robert Bauval's correlation theory, the Orion correlation theory? Does it tie into that as well?
Yes, first of all, I want to say that it will be a great pleasure to meet Christopher Dunn at the next Global Pyramid Conference in Gurnee, Illinois, the next 26,
Are you
29
speaking there?
September.
Are you going to be there?
Yes, I will be speaker at the conference, and it's really a great pleasure to share with Christopher Dunn our studies.
Yeah.
Also, I had a talk with him a couple of months ago, and we discussed about his theory about the pyramids and the Giza power plant. So it will be a great pleasure for me to meet him again at the conference in Chicago. Moreover, I will have also a one-to-one with the attendant to the public that will attend the conference if interested to improve the results of the research project. And so I wait for everyone in
Is
Illinois
is
to do.
Filippo Bioni going to be there as well, or just you?
Yes, yes, he will be
Filippo?
at the conference. Yes, me and Filippo will be speaker at the conference. Yes,
Excellent. I'm
yes.
sorry, what were the dates again?
26th to 29th September.
It's coming up. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
I'll
And
yeah.
and about the theory of the correlation of Robert Bauval, I have to say that I have a great respect for Robert, that I consider my mentor, my master, because I have to say that if the Robert Bauval, we have to thank him because he had a great idea in the development of the theory of correlation. Because since that moment, we finished to talk about the pyramid as tombs, and we enter in a new concept of the Giza plateau. And in my opinion, it was really fantastic researchers that I miss him, I have to say, because I believe that Robert is a genius from this point of view. But I have also to underline that I started to study his theory and I found some elements that I believe must be correct because when he developed this theory, he refers only to the pyramids and the Sphinx. But on the Giza Plateau, there are other monuments, in my opinion, that belong to a global project from east to west, from south to west, and from above so below, according to the thought concept. That is why I started to study from a different point of view, including other monuments that, in my opinion, were part of a global project. For example, the two temples beneath the Sphinx, that in my book I describe, are connected with Mercury and Jupiter, including the ridge where actually the mastaba of Kenkawes is in the southeast of the plateau. That particular shapes, the spheres characterize the Kenkawes ridge, and the sphere is connected with the feminine, the concept of the Great Mother, and so is connected with Isis. and also the tomb of the birds in the west of the Giza. That is part of the global project connected with the Aquarius constellation, as I explained before. So I believe that this is the better way to understand the global project of Giza. That is why I believe that the theory correlation of Robert Boal must be improved by an analysis more complex of the monuments that were built on the Giza Plateau.
The other thing that Robert Bauval, John Anthony West, Robert Schoch, and others believe in is that the Giza Plateau, as well as the Sphinx, was set aside or put together during the age of Leo, the astrological
Yeah,
age of Leo. What
yeah.
what was the approximate age of that time frame? Do we have a date for that?
The next stage of the Leo, the next stage of Leo at the vernal equinox will be between 12,000 years. So we are exactly in the midst of the precessional cycle of Orion in this age.
Right.
We are exactly in the middle. In the middle.
So
So it means
yeah,
maybe the new time is starting to unveil the secrets of the of the lost civilization, and I hope to explore the underground as soon as possible, because only in this way we can join us with our origins, because underneath the Giza Plateau kept the origins of humankind. That is why it's important to talk to the Egyptian authorities in the effort to explain them that underneath the Giza Plateau there are our regions, and the Egyptian must be proud of this, because the ancient Egypt, the Egyptian civilization, was the seed from which originated the modern civilization, the modern society. That is why I believe that it is important to create a cooperation with the Egyptian authorities, and above all to explore the underground of Giza.
yeah. I've had a number of people on the program who have used ground penetrating radar and other equipment to pierce the sand of the Giza Plateau. And not only is there an intricate tunnel system, but there, according to William Brown and Trevor Grassi, there's some temples and some other structures that were
Yeah,
perhaps never meant to be covered by sand, but because of that area being windswept constantly, the sand's covered it all up. Is it your hope to get permission to dig out these tunnels and pure and temples and things?
I hope to. In this moment, it's very important diplomatic schedule with the Egyptian authorities. This is very important, and I hope to have the support of other researchers. For example, Robert Schoch, that is one of the most important academic that made a very interesting job on the Giza Plateau, and I think that he's very reliable experts that can help us to enter in contact with the Egyptian authorities, but also many other researchers that could help us in the effort to find a solution, an agreement with the Egyptian authorities in the effort to move forward in this exploration. I hope to, and this is why I'm moving to Cairo, because the first step is to find the key to enter in contact with the Egyptian authorities and to start a common project that involved all parties, because I underline this is the interest of humankind and not of Armando May or some other researchers. Is in the interest of humankind to explore the underground of Giza, because I repeat, there are our origins are kept there.
How do you plan to do this, Armando, when what you are proposing is completely opposite of what Egyptologists believe? They don't believe that, I mean, there's never been any acceptance, even with scientific proof of canals and tunnels underneath the Giza Plateau. That, you're going to open up a can of worms because you're going to show that there's definite probability of an earlier high advanced culture because those tunnels were cut by machines. They're perfectly square. I mean, Andrew Collins has revealed that, William Brown, Robert Schoch, they don't want that information out. That's the least of, I mean, they are resisting any hint of an advanced culture. How are you going to cross into that world and say, "Hey, we want to be friends with you and let's dig out."
But, but look at this. This is not the first time. This is not the first time that someone refers to the possible existence of conduits, chambers, galleries, shafts underneath the Giza Plateau. Because in 1930, for example, Salim Hassan, that is an Egyptologist, an Egyptian Egyptologist, published the paper. The title was Discovered Tunnels Underneath the Pyramids. Moreover, also Petrie discovered conduits that lies underneath the Giza Plateau. So we follow this kind of study when we started to use the satellite to explore the underground of Giza. So there are already other Egyptologists that made these discoveries. So the Egyptian authorities knows very well that there is something underneath the Giza Plateau. So we have just to have the brave to explore the underground of Giza. They already know. They know everything. That there are structures underneath the Giza Plateau. There are conduits, chambers, rooms. Now we have to find an agreement and solution and to go underneath.
So you actually think that the Antiquities Department in Egypt is going to grant you permission to excavate a portion of the plateau?
Yes, first of all, we have to explore only some wells that are on the Giza Plateau in the necropolis of the Great Pyramid, for example, or on the left of the causeway leading the Sphinx to the Cafrey Pyramid. Also in the necropolis, in that necropolis, there are lots of wells that goes in the underground. So the monuments in this moment are not our target, but our target are the wells that are on the Giza Plateau. So the only way is to remove the debris that block the wells, and removing the debris, we can enter in the network underneath the Giza Plateau. So there is nothing to do, just to remove the debris. But what is important is that behind me, I need, of course, university or a center of research. And that is why I'm trying to get in touch with other researchers, Robert Schoch, for example, that we share recently a correspondence discussing about that matter. And I hope that in the next weeks to have the idea more clear in the effort to start the diplomatic effort, the diplomatic struggle with Egyptian authorities.
So are you hoping that Robert Schoch, who's at Boston University in the United States, will get backing from the university to sponsor a dig?
I think that the Boston University and also Robert Schoch are very representative for very reliable subjects. And they could be a very important subject that could open the door to the Egyptian authorities, just to start a discussion.
Okay.
But I have to understand if they really are interested in this kind of discussion, of course.
Okay. One of the things that you bring up is a big problem for Egyptologists, which is the King's List. And when you have dates of 36,400 BC, you think of who were the rulers during those time periods. And you feature and discuss in your book not only the royal canon, the Turin papyrus, but also the other references to King's List in history. Talk a little bit about the importance of the King List and also how far back does it go?
Yes, first of all, I have to say that the royal canon was found by an Italian Egyptologist, Bernardino Drovetti, that found it in 1920. 23 in Egypt. And the royal canon refers to a long list of rulers, of sovereigns that ruled over Egypt for almost 36,000 or 38,000 years. What is important to underline is that the beginning of the text was lost forever, but thanks to the translation of Champollion, Gustav Seyfert, for example, and also Alan Gardiner, we had we have now a precise list of sovereigns that ruled over Egypt in the pre-dynastic age. Of course, as you know, the Egyptologists are very skeptic about the rulers before the dynastic age. I have to say that from a certain point of view, their position is correct because we have never found tombs or clues of those sovereigns. But I have also underlined that the 70% of the ancient Egyptian ruins are still under the sands of the desert.
Yeah.
So maybe that somewhere the tombs are, and we also explore the underground in other archaeological sites of Egypt. For example, in the north of Abydos, that I believe is a very interesting area where something lies underneath, and we must only explore those new area of Egypt, and maybe we can find the clues of these unknown rulers.
And I think you referred to the Turin Kings list as being was it requested by Ramses II, who wanted to know about the ancient past, or one of the pharaohs? You speculate. I don't know if we know for sure who it was, but perhaps the dating of the papyrus is around the Ramses II's time period.
No, the list of the temple of Ramses II, the king's list, is similar to the royal canon. What is
Okay.
the difference? The difference is that while the royal canon is just only a list of kings with the date of rule, the time of rule, the king's list is a kind of legitimation of Ramses II and this connection with the deities.
Right.
That is the difference. That the royal canon is exactly a long list of rulers. The king's list in the temple of Seti or the Ramses II is a kind of connection through the list of deity to legitimate the connection of the pharaohs with the deities.
Right. And so people, the reason that the Egyptologists don't accept it is it has known pharaohs, but then it goes back into deep history. How many thousand, like 30,000 years ago, and lists these other pharaohs and kings. And that's too much for them to accept because, according to our current history, there was no one sophisticated during those early periods. We were hunters and gatherers.
Yes, yes, there are, yes, but as I said before, their position, the position of the Egyptologists is correct in this way, in this case, because we didn't find any kind of clues of those rulers. But if we excavate the other part of Egypt, maybe we can find some clues that could confirm the existence of this lost civilization. Everything is connected to our needs to explore the ancient past. If we decide to explore the ancient past, we can also find every kind of clues suggesting the existence of a lost civilization that preceding us on this planet. But we must, if we must, we can find.
Yeah, okay. One of the interesting points that you make, and I think I remember when I was interviewing John Anthony West, he said the same thing. The current thinking of the Egyptological community is that the monuments on the Giza Plateau were Old Kingdom, Fourth Dynasty. And one of the
Yes,
great points in your book, which I appreciate, you even have some photographs in it, is that it could not have been Old Kingdom because they didn't have the technology, they didn't have the
yes,
resources or the skill. And I want you to
yes.
talk a little bit about that, the ability to drive and power cutting tools did not exist during the Fourth Dynasty. Talk a little bit about that discovery.
Yes. Yes, first of all, we must say that when the pyramids were discovered, inside the pyramids there was found nothing. No mummies, no funerary stuffs, nothing. Even in the pyramids there aren't inscriptions, and this is a very important point because the ancient Egyptians are known for the quantity of inscriptions inside the tombs that talk about the pharaohs of in his life, daily life. The pyramids are totally empty of inscriptions. Only the cartouche of Vice, I don't want to discuss about it because we already know that is a forgery. So also because if it wasn't a forgery, we, Robert, for example, would have had the authorization to study it on the field. But any authorization was released by the Egyptian authorities. So we can study this, and this is, in my opinion, an evidence that cartouche is a forgery. Moreover, about the tools, we know that during the Fourth Dynasty, the ancient Egyptians used hammer tools and chisels in copper. So if we take a look to the king's chamber, for example, inside the Great Pyramid, we can appreciate the granite blocks that are very, very large, 5 meters from 10 meters. So it means that this kind of block must be extracted for a quarry of granite, but without any kind of device to penetrate, to drill the granite, to extract the block. It's impossible to obtain this kind of job during the four times. Moreover, the blocks must be transported from the Aswan caves to Giza. It means to transport 80 tons for 800 kilometers
Yeah.
with wooden sledges, maybe. They don't know the use of the wheels, for example. So it's really impossible for the dynastic Egyptian during the Fourth Dynasty, during the Old Kingdom, to do this kind of job. That is why I believe that this is an evidence that the pyramids were built by another civilization.
Yeah, it's only when you have an engineer like Chris Dunn come and see the pyramids do they validate that it could not have been done by the dynastics because they didn't have any technology. The technology
They didn't
was
have any technology. But if the Egyptologists visited, I suggest them to visit a granite quarry with their eyes, their own eyes. They understand that it was impossible for the dynastic Egyptian to do this kind of job. I suggest them to visit a granite quarry, and they can understand that it's impossible.
yeah. I mean, all
It was for the Egyptian.
you go to the Aswan quarry and see the unfinished obelisk. That thing weighs it's a thousand
Yeah,
ton obelisk that was ready to be extracted. It would have been the
yeah,
largest in the world. And how in the hell did they do that? It's granite.
yeah. It's unbelievable. But also, it's very important to underline the mathematical constants that characterize the monuments that were unknown during the dynastic age. The pi, phi, epsilon, the number under 37, the number 42 that characterize the temple, the Cafrey, the temple of the valley. So there are many mathematical codes characterizing the pyramids that were totally unknown to the dynastic Egyptians. So how can we explain that? It's impossible. So that is why I believe that there are many clues, a large quantity of clues suggesting that those monuments were not built during the dynastic age.
Yeah. Before we leave your book, why you wrote it because you were revealing, and of course, it's been many years since you wrote the original, and of course, you updated it before you published the most recent copy. Why did you write it? Did you write it because you wanted to show the reader that they need to look beyond the current thoughts of Egyptological theory and that it's important to consider Egypt as the bastions of an advanced civilization? Talk a little bit about what.
No, I wrote this book and the other two books of the trilogy just to give a new kind of support in the study of the mysteries of the past. There are lots of researchers, passionates of ancient mysteries, and I wanted to give a different point of view to them in the analysis of the mysteries of the ancient past. This is the reason that pushed me to write this book, just to suggest a possible different point of view in the analysis of the mysteries of the past.
And has Zahi Hawass or anyone in the antiquities department commented on the book? Have you sent them a copy or a chapter or two just to get their opinion?
I will give him my book once I meet him in Cairo.
Well, that's after the
And
fact.
I will tell him it's in my book.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Oh my God.
It's in my book.
He overdid that. I want to talk a little bit about the coffee research project and go to 2022 when you guys first scanned the Khufu pyramid with the SAR technology. One thing I wanted to comment on is that in 2022 it was Malanga and Bayoni. When did you come on board? Did you come on board after that was released?
Yes, I get in touch with them with Professor Corrado Malanga in the 1st September 2022 because we had a meet in Pescara, Italy, thanks to a common friend that is in the field of research. And he pushed me to meet him because we have a common path of investigation of the Giza Plateau.
Oh, interesting.
And so we shared our path of research. They finished to explore, to scan the Khufu pyramid, and I was studying the Cafrey pyramid, and I discovered also the connection with the number 137. So we discussed about those topics. Particularly, I was doing also a study on the Queen's Chamber Northern Shaft with Manu Sefsadek and Jean Val, and we were analyzing the images that Matt Simpson published on his podcast. And so we discussed about this subject and we decided to move together in the exploration of the Cafrey pyramid and then of the entire Giza.
Wonderful. You know, I want you, if you can, to comment a little bit on the SAR technology, synthetic aperture radar. I just discovered recently that it's been used by the military for decades. It's not anything new, and this is what makes it so interesting
Yeah,
because Zahi Hawass completely rejected it without even thinking that it's been part of
yeah,
military application for decades.
yes. But also in civilian application, the SAR is used. And I believe that Zakia was received incorrect information firsthand.
Oh,
That is why I believe that he had this kind of reaction to our results. But I believe if we can have a meet with him and explain him and to his experts that support him in his project, I believe that he can understand what is the real core of the technology that we are applying because it's a combination between the SAR technology and Biondi protocol that can allow us to explore underneath in a very deep the Giza Plateau. So if we can have a meet with him and this expert, maybe he could understand what is the core of the technology, and maybe we can try to move together forward in the exploration of the Giza Plateau.
talk if you can on the Cheops pyramid scan in 2022 because not only did they reveal new rooms and canals within the body of the pyramid, there are very anomalous shafts that go underneath the pyramid that look like they connect with other shafts that maybe drew water from the Nile into this engine and back. Can you discuss that for a little bit?
Cliff, there is just only one answer to your question, and is connected to the wall that was built underneath the floor of the king's chamber. there is an environment underneath the floor of the king's chamber inside the Great Pyramid. A wall was built maybe during the 80s. Beyond this wall, I know there is, because I discussed with some people that work in the Great Pyramid, that work exactly in the king's chamber. I discussed with them about this wall, and I believe that beyond this wall, also according to their description, there is a conduit, a channel that goes deep in the underground of the pyramids, underneath the pyramids, and also leads in the upper of the pyramids. Maybe it could lead to the big void that was discovered by the scan pyramids. And I believe that if the wall is broken, maybe we can explore also the other environment that we detected with technology SAR.
Why did they place a wall underneath the king's chamber? Was it to secure or some?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know
Oh,
why the wall was built. I don't know, but it characterized the environment underneath the floor of the king's chamber, and we don't know why this wall was built. And first of all, who decided to build this wall?
I mean, we're trying to be very positive and hoping that the Egyptian authorities will say, yes, we want to dig and we want to validate this new SAR scans. But it just seems like there's too many questions about their motivations and
Yeah,
hiding these secrets and being revealing advanced technology to the world that brings up so many questions. It invalidates Egyptology. It invalidates
yeah,
academic process. It invalidates archaeological study. And this has been the big question I've had for years. You have a
yeah.
obvious technological
Me-
tool. Yeah, you too. Many others. You have an advanced machine that they want us to believe is a tomb.
yeah.
How do you, I mean, I applaud your willingness to go and live there, but what makes you think that you can break the ice with these people whose can, whose doctrine may be cover up?
Yes, yes. Well, I would like to ask you, I made a journalist in this moment. According to you, why the Egyptian authorities and the entire academic world, when they know about the results of our scan and so the existence of the shafts underneath the pyramids, why the Egyptian authorities and all the the world of Egyptologists don't decide to move forward in the exploration of the underneath of it. Why? It could be one of the most important discoveries ever. Why they don't want to move forward in this kind of exploration? Why?
So my answer to
Why?
that is that they would have to
They
rewrite
still
the
continue
history
to say.
books. They would have to say we were wrong and that we have the Egyptians completely wrong. I mean, it's like you look at this advanced technology that they claim is from the dynastic period, and they would have to excuse themselves to the world and say we were wrong. That the pharaohs were not the scientific community that built the Great Pyramids. They were not the advanced people who cut with special saws and perhaps lasers, granite and other hard stones to create sculptures and create temples and create pyramids. I don't know. I mean, it's too. I think it's too naive, and I'm not saying you're naive. I'm just saying it's just too naive to think that it's simply they just don't know any better, and so they're just gonna deny, deny, deny. There's something else going on. It's almost like it's a critical problem for them to admit that there was a technologically advanced culture prior to the dynastics that goes back into deep history, prehistory.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. When we talk about the Giza Plateau in the academic field, I found their statement totally insane. in my opinion. Totally insane. Everything they state about the pyramid, the Giza Plateau, the entire Giza Plateau, I found their statement, their claims are insane. But on the other end, I have to ask, I would like to ask them if we found those shafts underneath the pyramids, if we found the shafts underneath the Giza Plateau, if there are chambers underneath the Sphinx, why don't we explore those new megastructures that we found? We must only remove 5 meters of debris from a wedge that is between the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid, and we can enter in the network and the underground. 5 meters of debris that can allow us also to understand when the shaft was blocked. So we can also have an idea of when the wedge was built, and maybe all the entire Giza Plateau was built analyzing the organic matter we can find inside the wells. So there is very many things to do, many clues to explore, to study. Why don't we move forward in this field? I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing, and I've had a couple of different Egyptologists on the program, and it's becoming apparent that many of these pharaohs had massive egos. And one of the big ones is the great usurper Ramses II, who
Mhm.
ritualistically, that's not the right word, but regularly would put his cartouche on statuary, on temples, on everything, claiming they were his.
Yeah,
And the issue with that is it's confusing. And
yeah,
yet, even with that knowledge, Egyptologists still claim that certain statues, certain buildings, and obviously the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx were dynastic creations.
yes, maybe. Or of course, if we noted that there are also statues in diorite in basalt. For example, the pottery that was discovered by Flinders Petrie in the village of Nakada, where pottery is in diorite. This is one of the hardest stone in nature. How? Petrie dated these vessels to the pre-dynastic period, so more ancient than the dynastic period, between 3,900 before Christ, 3,200 before Christ, during the Nakada period, Nakada age. How can do this kind of job? I don't know. They didn't have any tools to work the diorite, for example. So how can we date those kind of potteries to the pre-dynastic period if the Egyptian didn't have any kind of tools to work this kind of stone? That is why, as I said before, it's totally insane what I heard from the academic world when they discuss about this kind of topics.
Yeah, it's just crazy because the museum's filled with those kind of stone bowls that look like they were cut on a machine or a lathe of
Yeah.
some kind. Just nuts.
I was
Hey,
observing some verses that were exposed during the Cosmic Summit 2025 in North Carolina by Matt Bill, that is a researcher that is studying the vessels. He has a collection
yeah, he has a
of
great. I want to
vessels.
see that. Apparently, it was. Did you see it there?
Fantastic. Yes, I was there and I see that
20
the vessel.
pieces. Yeah.
And I also analyzed the inside of this kind. But there are clues of some machine that works the stone. It's evident if we touch the inside of the vessel, it's clear that was worked with the machine. So I'm getting crazy with the academics.
You have to make peace with them, my friend, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
You're committing you and your poor wife. I think you're married, aren't you?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
your
yes, I
wife is
am.
agreeing to go with you to Cairo.
Yes, because she's in the field of research. She's doing an interesting job on deity thought, and she's studying why thought is depicted as an ibis and not a different bird, for example. And she found very interesting clues suggesting why thought is represented as an ibis.
Wow. Well, good. She'll
She's
enjoy
working on
herself.
a new book on that matter.
Wonderful. Hey, as we close, and in the last few minutes we have together, Can you expand a little bit on the discovery of the Cafrey pyramid? And I want to get clarification. I did not believe the claims that were made by you and Filippo of the depth of these tubular structures and then these square boxes or rooms until I read that this was a military application. This is not something that's fantasy. This technology exists both in the United States and in
Mhm.
other countries in their military. How deep do these structures go underneath the Cafrey pyramid? And since we've first heard about it, can you clarify exactly what you think those structures are?
So first of all, about the deep of the
The
shaft,
depth,
they
yeah.
goes until 1 kilometers and 200.
200
So
kilometers?
1 kilometers and 200 meters.
So that's over a mile,
One
isn't it?
kilometer
Is,
in
is,
I don't know in miles. I'm
I should
sorry.
look it up. Yeah, I think it's close to a mile. It's amazing.
Yes. And the structures, the tubular structures has a diameter of 20 meters. And at 600 meters 48, they enter in the boxes of 80 meters per side. And they cross the box and goes until 1 kilometers and 200 meters. Now, what is the function of those shafts? We don't know. It's interesting to note that there is a structure, a spiral structures around them. We wonder what kind of materials could be. In my opinion, it is a kind of metal, maybe copper or gold, that characterize the spirals around the shafts. And in the time, we have explored the shafts to understand what was their real purpose. We don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe it was connected to the water to generate vibrations. It is a working hypothesis,
Yeah.
but we don't know what really was the function.
In the scan that was done in the Cafrey, no, Khufu pyramid, I think it was Filippo or was it you that rendered them in a three-dimensional capacity, the body of within the pyramid itself. Are you going to do the same thing with these shafts underneath the Cafrey pyramid?
Oh, maybe. As I said before, we have to explore it. We can have just an hypothesis, an idea, but we must be sure of what lies beneath the Giza plateau, and we can do that just only exploring the network. This is the only way to understand what was the real function of all the structures, the underneath, the surface, because everything is connected. From east to west, there is a network of conduits that connected everything. All the pyramids are connected among them. The Sphinx is connected with the pyramids. The tomb of the birds is connected with the pyramids. And all the monuments are connected with the megastructures underneath this. So it seems really a power plant, but we must, as I said before, we must explore the network to have a precise idea of what was its function.
So this is news to me because what you're saying is the entire Giza plateau was some kind of interconnected engine of some kind.
Yeah, yes, everything is interconnected from the Sphinx until the Tomb of the Birds. From east to west, everything is interconnected.
But were
And
they
also at different level is interconnected. So there is a level, so another level underground, and so on until 1 kilometers and 200 meters.
so what is the team's the Cafrey project team hoping to do now that you have this basic evidence of underground shafts and rooms and so forth and so on? What would be the next, I mean, without, I guess you'd have to dig, right? Because you don't, ground
Yeah.
penetrating radar doesn't help you anymore.
Yes, yes, for sure. And we have to finish the job on the Giza Plateau. Once we finish there, I am suggesting to move to Sakkara, because I believe that Sakkara is interconnected with the Giza. The was for sure was connected with the Giza plateau.
Really?
And so, yes, But there is also an experience that was told by Hakim Abdelawi during the 90s of guys that is working with him that while they were exploring one of the tunnels underneath the Giza Plateau. And they found this guy in Sakkara and after many kilometers. And it means that Sakkara is connected with the underground of Giza.
Amazing. Fantastic. By the way, those of you listening, this new book, 36,400 BCE, The Secrets of the Gods, is available on Amazon, correct?
Yes, correct,
You can get
correct.
the English version on Amazon. This is one for your library, so consider it. And Armando May, as always, a pleasure having you on the program. And perhaps we'll see each other.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank you.
be on the plateau in we'll talk ahead of time. I'll be there in April with a group to study and to observe the Giza Plateau and all its different forms. So
We can meet there. Meanwhile, meanwhile, I wait everybody at Gurney in Illinois at the Global Pyramid Conference
I
because there will be more updates about our research on the underground of Giza. There are new updates, and so I think it's interesting to listen about these new discoveries. So I wait everybody at the end of September 26, 29 at the Global Pyramid Conference.
what is the website for them? What's their link? Do you know? It's called the Global Network Pyramid Conference.
Global Pyramid Conference.
Globalpyramidconference.com, maybe.
Conference.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe. Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
how can people get a hold of you? What's your website, Armando?
My website is Beyond the Time, or just only Armando May blog,
Armando May blog.
Armando May's blog.
Okay.
Yeah,
And you have
let
a
me
YouTube
find
channel
new.
too, right?
Yes, I have a YouTube channels and also a social page where I posted new updates about our my project of research.
Amazing. Well, it's always a pleasure having you on the program. Thanks for joining me. And
Thank you so much, Cliff. It's really a great pleasure to talk to you. Really great pleasure. Thank you.